Welcome to Dear Grownups. You know, on this show, we usually talk about things related to early childhood. Well, today we're going to talk about something that relates to early childhood, but also preteens, teens for sure. And I have a special guest today. This is Miguel Gomez.
Hey, everybody.
He is here with us. We were just joking that it's kind of like when Oprah would bring on Dr. Phil.
Yes.
It's practically the same thing.
That's amazing.
You're in for a treat. We have been talking about this subject kind of off and on in passing. We're work colleagues and friends, and it was something that I had no idea was an issue. I'm sure many of you don't know that it's an issue either, but if you have any sort of internet, any sort of iPad, any sort of phones in your home or access with your children, then you need to listen to this. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk a little bit about technology issues and what we as parents need to know, because we're probably the last ones to know it. Our kids probably know a lot of this, and what we just need to be aware of and maybe what we can do about it.
Yes, absolutely. And so I encourage y'all, I will nerd out on this. And so, and I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of things. I'll probably squirrel and go on some tangents. Anything you hear that you have questions about, post it, right? Just add questions to the video in the comment section and ask us, because I was telling Jessica, this will take more than one podcast. We're going to have to do Dear Grownups.
It's going to be like
part
our
two, and part three. And so if you put in questions in the comments and things like that, I promise you, I'll address every single one. And we'll talk about it and stuff. And it's a lot to see.
I think the biggest thing is that technology and AI is changing so quickly. So even things we may talk about now in the next 2 months, 3 months, who knows, it's probably still going to be there, but it might be a lot more amplified too.
And that's a great point, because what we're going to try to do is we're going to talk specific things and then general things, because anything specific will be outdated within 3 months. It is progressing so quickly. But if we talk in the sense generally too, you'll know what patterns to look for and things like that. We'll even talk patterns of behavior of your kids, probably in a second podcast, but of when they're starting to disassociate with life and associate with AI. But so let's I was telling Jessica, I want to start it this way.
Yeah.
So we're here,
Dr.
right?
Phil.
That's
Go
right.
for it.
Well, so there's this idea of why do I feel so unprepared to talk about this, right? Why did this just spring up? And it seems like it's a new buzzword everywhere, AI this, AI that, and yet we feel unprepared to talk about it. And here's the way I would explain it. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, no.
So when you tell your kids, when they're about to cross the street, what do you tell them?
Look both ways.
Okay, look both ways. Why do you tell them that?
Because the cars are going to come across usually, and you
Perfect.
have to look.
Yeah, so because you want to be safe and the cars are going to be crossing, how did you know to tell them that? Who taught you that?
Well, I think I went to safety school in elementary school.
Okay, that's amazing, right? So your school had a little thing that taught it. Excellent. Yes. And maybe your parents also said it to you, right?
Definitely, they reinforced it.
They reinforced it. Okay, so you learned about it in school and your parents reinforced it, right? So we knew not to do that. All right, so who do your parents tell you not to talk to?
Strangers.
So your parents taught you that, right?
Yes.
School probably taught you that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so a lot of us, our audience are these parents out there, right? Dear Grownups. So we have kids, right? Yeah. And so we've done probably a great job. Have you told your kids to look both ways before they cross the street?
Yes.
Okay. Have you told them not to talk to strangers?
Yes.
Okay. Have you told them about being careful with AI?
So I have, only because of the conversations we've had.
Okay, only with me, right? And so to the audience,
and I don't even know if I've covered. I don't even know.
Yeah, right.
Some of the things we've talked about.
Our audience out there, have you told them that look both ways before you cross? Have you told them don't talk to strangers? And have you talked to them about AI? If it's yes, no, you're not alone. And the reason is we have the knowledge that we have as parents of the safety type stuff. It was formally and informally taught to us. So we had things like schools that were trying to, stop, drop, and roll. Look both ways. Don't talk to strangers. Don't take candy. Crime dog McGruff, right? In the commercials.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, right. And so all those things. So even from a parent, school, and even at a government level, these PSAs, public service announcements about
dare,
all of those things. we're constantly being reinforced. So we knew to talk about it with our kids because it's how we grew up. The problem is that AI exists entirely in the time frame, at least the AI that we know of and think of, exists entirely in the time frame since you've been a parent, but your kids have been born.
Absolutely.
And so you are, and when I say you, I mean the global, all of us, none of us were afforded the opportunity to have formal training or informal training. So formal through schools, PSAs, the government, or through our parents to warn us about it because it's this quick, right? 3 years ago, ChatGPT didn't exist, right? It was in labs and other things. So it's all sprung up, while we were, playing with cars on the floor with our kids. And so we don't know that it's a danger because it wasn't a danger in our lifetime.
Absolutely.
And so we haven't passed it on.
I mean, how old were you, Miguel, when you had a cell phone?
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
married.
I was.
I know you all are probably a lot younger parents than I am.
No, but you're right. I was engaged. Engaged, and married shortly after. Yeah, exactly, right?
So, I mean, we didn't even have that.
Exactly.
Like, we're getting used to technology, and then we're also getting used to this technology that's changing rapidly too.
And so we're ill prepared to talk about it because we have no experience with it. Nobody told me I needed to tell my kids to look both ways, or I need to tell my kids don't talk to strangers. I just taught them that because I knew how important it was, and it was taught to me over and over and over. That's what we're here for today because we need to be talking about this, but we're just at the same deficit as our kids. We're not exposed to it, and so we shouldn't fault ourselves, right? There was no way we could have been prepared for this because there was nobody to teach us this beforehand. So that's why we're here today. So if you're feeling like I had no idea about this kind of stuff, it's to be expected, right?
Yeah.
It's expected. We've kind of got, so we have to do a really high level intro about AI because we throw around that word a ton, right?
What does it even stand for?
Okay, so it's artificial intelligence. When you even talk about that, so the whole word of artificial, it just means that it's not human intelligence, right? So think of it that way of what it's not, because what it is can almost be anything. It's overwhelming,
it's probably a lot more intelligent than us too.
Well, and certainly a lot faster than us.
Yeah.
Right? I still think I can do algebra as good as ChatGPT. I just can't do it as fast as ChatGPT.
Nope.
That's okay though, right? It's so here's the good news though. We've been using AI for a long time, even before we heard of it.
But you mean like we as a society?
Yeah,
like the everyday person.
The everyday person's been using it because if you think about things like your alarm clock, okay?
Yeah.
So whether you're on your cell phone, you set your alarm clock there, or you're like me and you still have that one with the red, digits, and you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
We make my kids have them because they can't have their phones.
Yes. Okay. There you go. Those are great. I still don't know how snooze works, and I don't know how the music thing works, but I know I can set the alarm. Right. That's narrow AI. It's rule based. So when you go on your alarm clock and you say 7 a.m., I'm going to turn it on, and my first alarm set for 7 a.m. It has AI now that knows when this rule hits, do this.
So it's a code.
It's a code.
Okay.
So when 7 a.m. hits, make your beeping noise and go off. So it's just very rule-based, right? It can't think on its own. It can't, well, none of these can think on its own, but it can't do anything more than the set of 3 or 4 functions that you've put in place.
Gotcha.
The biggest one, we were kind of talking about this earlier before we started, is things like spell check, right?
Yeah.
So everybody here has used spell check before, one way or another, right?
Or you should.
Or you should, right? It's part of life now, and it does the fancy red squiggly thing, right? And there's all these features to spell check in the sense that if I wanted to write in Mandarin, so Chinese, right? I can do spell check in Chinese, and it will check and give me red squigglies for Chinese or Italian or whatever, right? I mean, I don't, but
I've never tried that.
But
it would.
It would, right? It does it. Spell check is just rule based. It's no different than your alarm clock. So I say English language, so it grabs Webster's dictionary, and then it looks to see if your word is misspelled. So I try to spell the word hippopotamus. Got no clue. Don't even know where to start, right? Just hippo. for me, right?
Yeah, I was like, do I need to enter this?
No.
Are we doing this as an example?
Well, yeah, no, because I can't get past the double P. Spell check would squiggly it,
Yes.
right? And then you'd right click and it fix it. And we know it's rule based because if it's there, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't pick it up, right? If
Yes.
I write the word there, it doesn't give me the red squiggly. It may give me a blue squiggly, which is another.
But it didn't used to.
But it didn't used to. You're exactly right? And the blue squiggly is not the spell checking one. It's the grammar AI, rule based, right? But that's been around in the 90s, right? So we've had 30 years of these kind of rule based AIs. So
Gotcha.
the good thing about them is, for the most part, they were not dangerous, right? I mean, I don't mean, spell check may have caused a few fights in the world, but but
Categories.
yes, exactly. Maybe Scrabble, and things like that. But for the most part, life went on, right? We enjoyed having spell check.
Probably enhanced.
It probably enhanced, a better quality because we can spell things better, right?
Yeah.
And so that's narrow AI. So when people talk about AI, 3 different types. First one's narrow AI, and then we have the one that we think about today. So ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot.
I don't know what that is.
So a lot of the major players have their own generative AI software out
Gotcha.
there. And so Google uses Gemini.
Yes, I've seen Gemini.
You've seen Gemini, yep. ChatGPT is ChatGPT. They're actually, the company's OpenAI, but theirs is ChatGPT. Copilot is Microsoft.
Okay. Is Claude? Is it its own
Claude,
thing?
it's kind of its own thing.
Okay.
But Claude's a big one too. And so all these are generative AIs. Basically the way they work is they took all this accessible information, right? Everything that's out there on the internet and that they can digitize.
Okay.
And they feed it into computers, right? And they write this algorithm and they tell the computers, I want you to learn from this. Just learn how people are writing, what they're saying, all these different things, right? And then we turn around and we go to those things and we say, hey, what's the best way for me to prepare chicken Alfredo, right? Which, by the way, I did the other day, and it worked out perfectly. And so ChatGPT walked me through the whole thing.
I really hope my husband's not watching this. He's going to have higher expectations. So he's going to be like, there's no reason that should not have tasted well.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
But you can use it for a lot of things.
A lot of things, right? So it's telling me what I need to make sure you do this, that, all these things. Because, so how does it know to tell me that? Because it's seen literally millions of recipes of chicken Alfredo. It's seen people write about it. It's seen reviews of it, people commenting on what makes it best and things. And it's taken all that information in, and it's using that to respond to your inquiries. The crazy thing about generative AI, when you type in, right, and you say, what's a good Christmas decoration I can do at home, okay? And it starts telling you stuff. Every time it writes, it's reading what it wrote before. So let's say it's
like putting it in its bank?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, say its answer to you is like, here are some ideas for Christmas decoration. What it does is it actually writes the word here. Then it goes back and starts again and thinks about what you asked it to do. It says, here is. And then it goes back to, here is the, and it builds from its previous thing, right?
Oh.
So we think about, like when I talk to you, what's a funny sports moment like for your kids?
Oh gosh, that's really bad. Zaven had to be goalie the other day, and it was
Okay,
really funny.
Nice. Okay, perfect. Right. So Tommy ran 7 laps in an 8-lap race, right? And so
I remember that story.
So he was, he got a really good time. Too bad it didn't count, right? And so it happens, right? And so when you answered that, you didn't think about. You just told the story,
right?
Right.
Yeah.
AI is thinking about every word in that story when it builds its response.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's also why it requires so much energy and power to run.
But it's so fast.
But it's so fast because they got these huge computer systems that are doing this, like huge data centers. So yes, it is absolutely fast. But it's also why they throttle you. You ever noticed that if you do a lot of inquiries, especially on the free plan, they'll lock you out after a while?
Yes.
Because they're trying to manage.
Because it's not just me asking
Exactly, right. And that's why they make people pay. But yeah, so it's incredibly fast, but it's incredibly labor intensive, I guess, in the sense of what it's doing.
I feel bad for my little
I know,
ChatGPT
I know, right?
that I was asking to roast my Easter picture.
Yes. No.
That's a lot of work.
It is. That's exactly it. So once again, too, with this generative AI, y'all, it's only been trained on what we put in it. When this first came out, so I think 3 years ago, I asked AI, I said, hey, give me a picture of a librarian. Okay. Now, there's a lot of pictures of, we all think of librarians. So actually, you tell me, if I say, describe what an librarian looks like.
Glasses.
Yes.
End of her nose.
Okay.
Like books behind her.
Yes. And I love the fact you said her nose.
I did.
You did? Okay.
I did.
That's perfect, right? It gave me a white male in a three-piece suit, no glasses, looked kind of like pretty good shape too. Like, I mean, like, I was like, for a librarian, he must be moving some heavy books or something because, he had
moving the whole shelf.
Yeah, I mean, he had broad shoulders, like, I mean, he was cut, and everything. Now he was in a three-piece suit and everything. It gave me all that. It was and I'm not trying to do stereotypes or whatever, but it was definitely not what I consider a librarian.
Yeah.
Right.
And you would probably not what you'd find if you Google image.
Right, exactly. Although maybe now because it's driven by AI.
Yeah,
but
right.
And it was because it was limited in what it had been trained on.
And asking that question.
No, it's been asking that question and everything. So it had bias, right? And it went that way. Today, if I ask it, it typically gives me a 40-year-old-ish female with glasses, books behind it really hits more of a stereotypal look, and it will, if I ask it like 4 different times, about 33% of the times it'll be a person of color, and I mean it really starts hitting realistic things, right? It's gotten better. It's been trained more and more and more. It's been trained on what human have created over time. Then it's going to have the same faults, limitations of what humans have created over time.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Right.
And so I'll give you an even better example. They use Getty Images, where photographers take pictures, put it up there as their portfolio to try to get hired and things like that. Well, they went and trained all these image creation things on those images, so that if a photographer took a picture of an orange and called it in their description an orange, right? Well, now AI says, oh, that's what an orange looks like, except it's done it a million times. It's looked at a million pictures of it. So it really knows what an orange looks like.
Gotcha.
Right? But this is the funny part. So they trained a lot on Getty Images. Well, on the free version of Getty Images, they watermark it, and it says Getty Images, right? So when AI at first, some of these different ones would create a picture for you, it would actually put the watermark or fade the watermark of Getty Images on it.
Seriously,
because they thought
how many things it's looked at.
Yes. So the point is, it's not smart. It's quick. It's quick. It's really quick at accessing things that have been created and given to it. It doesn't make it necessarily smart. It's smart in the sense that if you give it a lot of accurate stuff, how do I write a 5-page essay or 5-paragraph essay? And it's seen literally millions of examples and how to do it and everything.
Right.
It's going to give you a really good example and explain it to you and do a great job on it. So it seems smart, but only because it's seen good data.
Gotcha.
But with Getty, and they fixed all that stuff now. We're talking when this stuff was first coming out, but it trained itself with the logo there, with the watermark. And so it when people said, "Give me an image," it would, you could see the G or the watermark stain
Still
kind of there. Yeah, still on there. And it's because that's what it thought. The more dangerous one, they were first using it, the medical profession would use AI. And because it's quicker for AI to look at a picture and say, that's cancer, that's not, right?
Gotcha.
So they started training it and saying, hey, look, this picture's cancer, this one's not, this one's is, this one's not, this one is, blah, 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 boom. So that it can process thousands of x-rays and thousands of things. Well, what they did accidentally, though, is whenever it had the cancer one, it would use a ruler because they would measure the growth, the size, right? Yeah, right. So all of a sudden, then they started running it. Anytime there was a ruler in the picture, you had cancer. And so
it's so many false.
So many false positives, right? Once again, those were the early days of this stuff.
Right.
When I say early days, we're talking 3 years ago, right? I mean, not that long ago, right? So think of it this way. This is the simplest way. Bad data in, bad data out. If you tell it things that aren't specific, or that aren't correct, or you train it with things that, without fully thinking about the way you're training it, you can lead to misinformation, false positives. But in general, generative AI is just this notion that you got this huge sum of information, and I'm going to access this information to tell me things.
Okay.
It can be incredibly useful. So for where we work, we can take our handbook and I can give it to it and say, hey, read this. That thing's like 100 and something pages. Nobody wants to read that thing, right? At all.
No.
No. And so then after it reads it, and I say, only look at this, just based on this one thing. I don't want you looking at anything else. Can you find where it talks about, can you tell me where to look for this thing or that thing? And boom, it's going to show it to me. Here's the page. Here's the quote. I mean, and so it's incredibly powerful. But I trained it. I gave it the information and say, hey, read this, and I want to ask you questions about it, right? So when I tell people with generative AI, so ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Gemini, don't talk to it like a computer. Talk to it like you and me talk. Have normal conversations. Describe what you want. Think about, like, I'll use me and my wife, right? She'll say, hey, we're at the store, get what we need for the pot roast. And I was like, and she's like, okay, buy 2 pot roasts because we have 3 teenage boys and they eat way too much and we literally can't afford it anymore, but it's gonna be all good. But they do that, and then she's like, okay, you also need to eat cream of mushroom soup. And then of course my question is, where? And so she tells me where to go on the aisle, and then she's also like, get the big cans, I'll get the small ones, 2 of the big ones, not 2 of the small ones. And so we had this real conversation.
Yeah.
Do that with Gemini. Do that with ChatGPT. Have conversations.
Ask clarifying questions if you need to.
Absolutely. And you will get much better results than speaking to it in short, choppy things. And one more thing. There is what we call general AI. Okay. And sometimes they call it strong AI or super intelligent AI. And there's lots. Maybe the good news is that this does not exist yet, or at least nobody's admitting that it exists yet. Maybe somewhere.
To the general public, it doesn't exist.
To the general public, it doesn't exist. It may. I don't think it exists anywhere, because I think they would announce it. I did some old school things because we grew up in a different time. But 2001: Space Odyssey, Skynet from the Terminator movies, right? It takes over the world, and Data from Star Trek. If anybody's a Star Trek person, Jarvis is probably the most recent mainstream example, but in the Marvel movies, Iron Man has this AI that he talks to. The idea of Jarvis is this fully autonomous type thing. Like if I put you in front of ChatGPT right now, and I open it up, and I come back 2 hours later and you haven't done anything, it's still going to be blinking at you.
Yeah.
Like it won't do anything until you
input something.
Yes, unless you interact with it and whatever. Jarvis is the 100% evolution from that alarm clock. It is on its own, thinking, making decisions, doing things, what he thinks is the best. In the movies, he helps Iron Man, but it is 100% autonomous at that point. There are 2 competing thoughts. There are very, very smart people in mathematics and computer science and psychology and other fields that think that we'll never get there, that it's not possible. And then there are very, very, very smart people in those same fields who say, absolutely, we will get there, and we'll have Jarvis and Skynets in the future. I'm not. If I had a bet, if I had to bet, I'd be 60-40 that we would get there. So I'd lean more that we are going to get to Jarvis. My hesitation is, I tell people all the time, don't try to be AI. Double down on what makes you human. So I'll give you an example. Your oldest daughter, she dances.
She does.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I guess that's okay to say on here. Okay, sorry.
I've said it. No, you're
good. Okay. So she dances, right? Yes. So why does she dance?
I think there's a lot of reasons, but I think she enjoys it. I think she likes her friends, the creativity.
Yes.
It's a good big body movement. I think she feels successful in it.
Okay. So all those things you described, they can make an android one day that can dance. There's no doubt, right? But not for those reasons.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Now, general AI, that third one, that idea says they can get there. The reason why I'm 40% think that we won't is I don't know if they'll ever do it because they love it, because it brings them joy.
Yeah.
Joy is a human emotion, and now we start getting into things like faith and things like that. But there are certain things that I'm not sure a technology can replicate that are innate to what we are, and those things that you described about your daughter, right? Do I believe that they will be able to create a fully autonomous robot that can dance incredibly well, that can come up with its own dance routine?
Right.
Yes, I 100% think that's possible. But I think if we ask that robot, I don't think, why they did it.
Or why they even picked that piece.
Right. I don't think it would be the way your daughter would answer it. I think they would have two different answers. Does that make sense?
That might be the most you've ever talked about dance.
I know, which is kind of scary because I can't dance. We're not zero skills.
Yeah, but that is true. And I think that's what we, like in our profession, we try to tell our people who are going through school, and we tell our children who are choosing careers, like, pick the things that are going to be uniquely human to you, too.
Yes.
Right now, that's the only thing we can protect.
Yes, and those are the things that are most likely to remain protected too, right? So one last thing before we start diving in on this intro thing. So how do we get here? This is the craziest thing. Do you know what the two biggest drivers?
I do, only because you've told me.
Oh, you already told me. For the audience, just think for it for a second. What do you think the two biggest drivers of all innovation, technology-wise, have been? So number one is the military.
Yeah,
right. So
we talked about that a little bit, like how long have they had it?
Right, and you think about the advantages of it. I mean, right now in Ukraine, with the war that's going on, there are so many drones being used by both sides, and AI plays a factor in that. Right, they take a photo, and AI says, "Yeah, there's a human in that hole." So the innovation has just been phenomenal. We're talking futuristic here, but if I want to, with facial recognition and AI. Right, I just need to take a drone about this big, with not even that big. I mean, it can be even smaller, and have a little microscopic camera on it, which you can, and have facial recognition, and release it into a room. And once it identifies its target, it flies at 50 miles per hour into that person's eye, and you just kill them. It's a bullet. Right, and so these things sound like science fiction, but the technology is there. Military driver for it, right? And in a sense, you kind of want the United States military to be involved in that because whether we have it than nobody else has it, but it's around the world, right? And those things, kind of like NASA. So many things that NASA developed ends up becoming consumable, right?
Yeah.
So you take this military stuff that they're applying it to, but just today I was talking to somebody, agriculture here. Farmers can use a drone with AI. Flies over to their field, finds all the places where there are weeds, and now it will micro-target with another drone spraying and only spray the parts that needed to be sprayed. So now we have less pesticides on our crops, right? And we're not using it in our groundwater and all that kind of stuff.
It's a good thing.
So it's a great thing.
Right.
Same technology, except this one I'm using to find soldiers in a bunker, and this one I'm using to find weeds in the field, right? Same application put out. So the military drives a big portion of it. And then this is the part that's sad but true, but the whole joke of the oldest profession in the book and things like that, but sex industry, the pornography industry, those kind of things. The reason why we have large hard drives, the reason why we have Zoom and video conferencing, and I don't mean that Zoom
is being used for that
or they came from it. It's because back in the 90s, the porn industry was like, how do we can hit consumers through video? So we need to figure out how to do video. All the innovations of video today, of video sharing, of file sharing, those are born out of the military industrial complex and the porn industry because of the need to facilitate those huge things. Now, other industries have certainly contributed and everything, but those are big drivers of those things. And that's scary. If that was all the background stuff, right?
Yeah, that's what AI is.
Yes, that's what AI is. And once again, any questions about any of that, put it in the comments. We'll get to them. Let's talk more about what scares us.
Okay.
So what scares you?